Let's jump with this. We'll jump to the story then. We have this from Washington Times. Trump ally Rep. Scott Perry says FBI seized his cell phone. One day after the raid on former President Donald Trump, the FBI has seized the cell phone of a Republican member of Congress. Rep. Scott Perry, Pennsylvania Republican, said in a statement to Fox News that 3 FBI agents handed him a warrant and demanded his phone. Quote, "This morning, while traveling with my family, 3 FBI agents visited me and seized my cell phone. They made no attempt to contact my lawyer, who would have made arrangements for them to have my phone, if that was their wish. I'm outraged, though not surprised, that the FBI, under the direction of Merrick Garland's DOJ, would seize the phone of a sitting member of Congress." Mr. Perry's statement did not elaborate on whether he was told anything about what the FBI was seeking on the phone. Mr. Perry is a founding member and current chairman of the conservative House Freedom Caucus.
Oh my gosh.
As a close ally of former President Donald Trump, the Democrat-appointed January 6 panel has shown interest in his communications with Trump around that time. It's fascinating. Wasn't Ron DeSantis also one of the founders of the Freedom Caucus?
I'm not sure. Question.
know that.
I would
Look it
believe
up.
it. I look it up.
We're big fans of the Freedom Caucus.
We are.
And I have to say, this is not surprising in the least. But, man, look, when a story like this happens, it's kind of like, oh, wow, that's bad. When Steve Bannon gets arrested, you're like, oh, wow, that's bad. After the raid on Donald Trump's home, it's a whole new territory. Mm-hmm. Now this is a sitting member of Congress had his phone seized by the feds.
Yeah, DeSantis did help start the Freedom Caucus.
Where we are right now is that it's not former administration officials. It is current elected representatives being targeted by the Department of Justice.
So where does this end? So I remember you talking
Civil War.
about... Yeah, of course, he said it. All right, take your drinks, everyone. So Tim talked about this situation where there would be 2 cars driving somewhere. I don't remember the story.
It was Matt Taibbi. Matt Taibbi wrote this.
Really?
Matt Taibbi wrote, I think it was last October.
That's great.
That we will get to the arrest that man phase, which sparks a civil war where you will have 2 cars speeding towards a police jurisdiction where the men will jump out and then point at each other, arrest that man.
Is that where we are?
We're beyond that. So the question about that stuff is, will there be a fight over the institution of law enforcement? Democrats have weaponized it. Republicans are too weak. Look, I appreciate Rick Santorum being on this show, but he was like, no, we got to follow the rules. We can't do this stuff. And it's like, I'll see you in the gulag, brother.
Yeah. I'm full abolish the FBI at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the reality. It's like I think in the battle for law enforcement, there's still some Constitution adhering, awesome local police officers, sheriffs, and communities around the country. But the FBI, and I'm not saying that they're all bad apples, but my goodness, I mean, the whole institution itself has been robbed and is so centralized in nature. So I people still have hope for it. I don't. I think the only answer with the FBI, an institution that's as nationalized and centralized as that at this point, is get rid of it.
We're in like
can't reform it.
A completely different reality. Maybe not completely, but relative to like 1970 when it was wiretapping phones and it was a big deal. Like when Nixon got found to be wiretapping the Democratic, whatever it was, the Democrats during his campaign.
Yeah, the DNC or whatever.
Now it's digital. So much data is stored digitally. And for these companies to be able to, I'm calling the FBI a company because it's kind of functioning like its own company, is able to just like peruse digital data and scrape huge amounts of people's data, conversations and stuff. It didn't exist in 50 years ago. So maybe we do need new rules and functions. But the thing is, de facto, whoever can do it is going to do it. Yeah. So
I saw Hassan Piker tweeted, you're familiar with him, he's a left-wing guy. He said something about watching Steven Crowder cry to defund the FBI or whatever. And I'm like, hasn't Crowder ragged on the FBI for a really, really long time?
Yeah, this isn't new.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I'm like, I hear you, brother Hassan, when you're like cheering for Steven Crowder talking about defunding the FBI. And I'm like, many of us have been there for a while now. Maybe if you agree with that, maybe there's like a caucus that can be formed between progressives and Republicans where it's like, okay, we all agree. We're going to get rid of that one. Maybe the ATF while we're at it. I mean, they don't like the government, right? They're supposedly.
Yep.
So how about we all just say, abolish many of these DOJ, DHS institutions, huh? How about that?
I'm all in for getting rid of the 3-letter agencies. I think it's time. You look at their track record. I'm a big, that you can tell a tree by the fruit. And the fruit of the FBI has been nothing but tyranny. That seems very corporate in nature for the last 2-3 decades. And this goes all the way back to, you're right, the 70s. And even, I would argue even further than that. But the FBI is an institution. The CIA is an institution that has such a political agenda to it that it's impossible to claim that they're biased. And that's, you even had people today, like Andrew Yang, that was calling that out,
Yeah,
that was
Andrew
willing to
Cuomo.
admit that like this looks political in nature. And so when people's immediate de facto response at this point is like, oh, there's the FBI being political again, like that's a sign that the tree is rotten. The fruit's rotten. This thing needs to just be uprooted.
Yeah, 100%. This is the first time I've ever retweeted Andrew Cuomo because he
Yeah,
was on it
right.
quicker than some of these Republicans. Same for Andrew Yang.
But you know why he was on it?
I'm
Okay,
sure he got
first,
he's
skeletons in the
right,
closet.
right,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I will first say, I can respect that Cuomo came out and said the right thing.
Right.
I will give him credit for that. I will then add, maybe the guy who killed 15,000 people
Yeah.
by putting COVID patients in nursing homes might be a little worried about what the government's going to do when they go after politicians.
Yep.
He's sitting in his living room and he sees the news and he goes, wait, we're doing that now? I
boy.
thought we were off limits. No, we got to... Yeah. When it comes for you, man. That's the problem with the weaponization of all this stuff. But I don't know how the Republicans... I don't know what the Republicans would even do. Kevin McCarthy's acting like, he's like, mark your calendar, Merrick Garland, because when we get in November, we're going to send you more sternly worded letters while you continually
Corrupt.
destroy this country.
I don't understand why, like worst case scenario, or even just like normal case scenario, if Trump were to get elected again and to get in office, like what would be that
He's
bad
gonna-
that
he's
would
gonna
happen?
fire him.
Maybe people will get fired. Maybe that's what this is about. But like really, the threat of our country is not there. There's no like, oh, maybe something is going to devastate. Like, we're okay. It's the economy is bad, and we need to fix the economy, regardless of who's in power.
The bureaucratic state has been in power for too long, and they will not let an elected official remove them from power. There is this parasitic entity that is the bureaucratic state latched onto our country, suckling away and controlling it like a brain slug. And Donald Trump is trying to remove it, but it's almost impossible. It is resisting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. These people aren't elected. They get appointed. They stay in through numerous administrations, these civil servants. So I often, we've talked about it on the show, you know, a president gets in office, they're like, I'm going to get the troops out of the Middle East. And then a bunch of documents land on the desk and they say, no, you're going to bomb this guy, and this guy. And he goes, okay, I'm going to blow up kids. Yep. And that's exactly what happens. So when Donald Trump gets in, this is my theory, my hypothesis. They say, okay, Mr. President, you're the president, fine. Boom, they slam the files on the desk. This is our agenda. This is what we do. And he goes, no, we're not doing any of that. That's stupid. I don't know why you want to do that. And then they start saying, no, you don't understand. Like, we're the CIA. Like, we do these things. This is what we're doing and why. He goes, don't know, don't care. How does it help America? And they're like, okay, we got to stop this guy. I think there was a point before Trump got elected, he had a meeting with a bunch of like establishment figures. I was in DC for it. Apparently he was like in a building somewhere. And I bet they were like, if you win, will you play ball? And he said, if I win, I'm the president and we're going to do what America wants. And then I think these people were like, okay, that's it. He can't win. He can't be allowed to win. Yeah. So I'll give you I'll give you an example. Our Middle Eastern agenda. I talk about it often, the Qatar-Turkey pipeline. We had a multi-presidential agenda. Doesn't matter who the president is. We were doing this, building these pipelines, trying to get energy into Europe, competing with Russia. Donald Trump comes in and goes, no, excuse me, no, and he shuts it all down.
Shut down the TPP too, the Trans-Pacific
TPP,
Partnership.
that was like kicking them in the balls.
Yeah, really.
So they're shrieking.
Yeah.
Now Donald Trump says, I'm going to fire all of them. Schedule F. And they're just losing their minds.
Yeah.
So this is what you get when you have unelected bureaucrats who actually run your country. Ray signed off on this. This is what people are saying. Okay, I don't pretend to know what was going on in the inner workings of this. But they know what they're doing. They are trying to stop someone from being able to become the duly elected president for a second term.
This is also like, this is Kennedy. He came out and he was like, I'm going to break up the CIA. And then Kennedy got assassinated. Like, you don't threaten the CIA. If you're going to fire people, you just do it when you have the ability to do it. You don't like tell them all ahead of time you're going to do it.
Well, let me ask you, like, do you know what what was the motivation of Lee Harvey Oswald?
What the actual story is?
Like, what's the
he was like an angry communist Fidel Castro sympathizer, and he didn't like Kennedy. Yeah,
I mean, I guess that's the story.
That's the story. But he was working with groups that were. I think what happened was he loaned a group of radicals his gun, and then they killed Kennedy and put his gun in the building.
Well, didn't Kennedy want to get us stop Vietnam or something like that?
Yeah, he was a pretty anti-war guy in general.
So why would a
he was
communist
escalating? He was
be
actually
angry about
escalating
that?
Vietnam.
He was escalating.
Yeah, but he had always said that there was a power greater than him that was manufacturing a lot of the crises that were happening. Remember, he was like, there's that famous quote that Kennedy was basically saying that I'm not fully the one in charge here. There's a whole different thing happening behind the curtain, and then obviously he's taken out.
Also,
So-
he and his brother Bobby went hard on the mob.
Yeah.
So they think maybe the mob was involved in killing him.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.